Hi, my name is Garrett Weaver, and today I will be presenting with you the Lexus LFC, envisioning a future for the Lexus LFA. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you, did you get to where you are today on a train, or a bus, or an airplane, or a boat, or a bicycle? Did you walk? Most likely the answer is no. I can safely assume that if you're watching this in the United States or another first world country, just like 80 to 90% of other first world country citizens, you probably arrived here in a car, probably your own car too. My personal interest in this project is because I was raised around cars. For my generation, some of our favorite movies are movies like Pixar's Cars. We grew up with a love for Legos and Hot Wheels and toys that move and go. For me personally, I grew up near Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, about an hour north of Columbus. I was constantly seeing exotic cars in town. Furthermore, every single summer that I'd go play outside, all I could hear was the roar of race car engines. I couldn't escape cars. My future won't be able to escape from cars either. Cars are our primary mode of transportation. They're part of our economy and entertainment. I have a healthy love for design and started my education at the Innovative Design School at the ICC. I have a goal of becoming an automotive designer after this, and I would really enjoy the possibility of pursuing an education in automotive styling after my time here at the ICC. But before I get into talking about the actual project, I want to share with you a story from my senior year of high school. I was on the highway, leaving school, going to practice, when out of nowhere I heard the craziest sound of my life. It sounded something kind of like a TIE fighter. I was absolutely terrified. So as soon as I could, I got out of the left lane, got out of the fast lane, slid over, and I hear the noise getting louder and louder, breathing down my neck. It was terrifying. Next thing I know, I hear this crazy sound blow past me in a white blur. It was this: the Lexus LFA, a Predator on wheels. The Lexus LFA is a halo car, built to show off Lexus and Toyota's capabilities. It was designed to be fast, precise, and really truly exciting to drive. There were only ever 500 made, making it extremely rare and respected by enthusiasts all over the world. But you're probably wondering, as I continue this project and this presentation, why Lexus? There are so many other cool car brands like Ferrari, Bugatti, Lamborghini. So many cooler cars that really have some high class and neat designs. For me personally, I think that Lexus has a lot of untapped potential. I ran into somebody when I was starting this project who happens to own a Lexus RCF and an LC, which are two of the cars out of Lexus Luxury and Performance division. He happens to also own the Facebook pages for these divisions. He was able to lean into these Facebook pages and get a lot of different feedback from other Lexus owners and car enthusiasts. Here are some of the shortcomings for the Lexus brand that he gave to me in feedback from other Lexus owners. It's been 15 plus years since the LFA was first released. Lexus is now lacking emotion or interesting identity, has a really conservative design process, and a slow start to their electric promises to be fully electric by 2035. They're over-reliant on their Toyota DNA, and also they have a really limited performance division. The RCF is the last true performance car in the Lexus brand lineup, and they're doing away with all of their performance division by next year. This is making a lot of car enthusiasts really upset, especially the ones that are Lexus fans. To help put you in the perspective of these people that are upset about Lexus's current direction, I'd like to walk you through the history of the Lexus LFA to help give you an understanding of where all of this emotion comes from. This is the original Lexus LFA concept. Released in 2005, it was a bold and unexpected vision from Lexus. They promised a no-compromise, ambitious supercar to rival all of Europe's finest cars like Ferrari and Lamborghini. It was crazy ambitious. F1 technology, a V10 engine, over 500 horsepower, and a top speed over 200 miles an hour. This was super exciting, and car fans all over the world thought this was a really interesting concept. But nobody believed that Lexus would ever do it. I mean, come on, it's Lexus. This company is like the Asian version of Cadillac. There's no way they're going to pull something like this off. My advisor, Boris Fabro, helped me with this specific project and was actually on the team for the original concept as shown here. 5 years later, Lexus actually released the real Lexus LFA. They did it. They built a handcrafted masterpiece of carbon and sound, delivering raw and emotional performance and precision engineering, proving that Lexus could build more than just a luxury car, but a true performance and track legend. It had a 4.8-liter naturally aspirated V10 engine, over 550 horsepower, a top speed of 202 miles an hour, and got awesome feedback from fans. It was underrated, truly outstanding. Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear quoted this car saying, "It was the greatest car that he's ever driven." Although it was considered a sales disaster by many people, it was actually a long-term game. It was a brand success. This vehicle was a halo car experiment. But what is a halo car? A halo car is a risky and expensive marketing strategy. It's a low production, high performance flagship model used to showcase innovation, elevate brand image, and they're simply really cool. No offense to anybody that owns a Kia Soul, but no car company is going to pour millions of dollars into a project just to create a Kia Soul. They want to create something cool, something exciting, something emotional. The effects of this really show true to the brand. The results are a 20% halo effect increase, which is the general public brand perception or interest. So for most of us that don't care about Lexus or don't have any connection to Lexus, we're 20% more likely to now care about Lexus after this car is created. There's also a 35% brand engagement increase, which means that for the people like me that already are interested in the brand or know about these cars, we're 35% more likely to go back to the brand or keep interacting with the brand in the future. These are great results for the brand. They also result in a trickle-down effect. The Lexus LFA sparked a decade-long revolution at Lexus, completely changing their identity. Where instead of just luxury, now emotion, precision, and performance became the core values, shaping the cars like the LC and the RCF into machines that stir the heart by creating excitement and experience, not just serving the driver's comfort with luxury. Lexus' whole mindset completely changed. Now I'd like to move into the modern day. Since then, Lexus has tried to keep up with this LFA dream and keep the idea of performance going. They started with this concept, the all-electric Grand Tourer LFR. It completely reimagined Lexus' future with seamless power. But the year kept getting bumped back, and even though the engine was promised to be electric, the specs were uncertain, and things just kept changing. A lot of people were excited for this concept because it meant a new world, a new realm for the future of the LFA. Unfortunately, a lot of people were confused because of changes with the year and the specs of the car, and even the design language. It didn't look like a Lexus. It didn't feel like a Lexus. It looked like a Mercedes-Benz. This left a lot of people pretty upset. So Lexus went back to the drawing board. Then they came out with a real LFR, rumored to be the next generation flagship. Also rumored to be released in 2026. It had a twin-turbo hybrid V8 engine, over 900 horsepower, an unknown top speed just yet, and it seemed really cool. This is something tangible that we can move forward with the LFA. Unfortunately, this concept, the real LFR, it had poor feedback once again. A lot of fans said it had a poor design direction. It didn't look like the future of Lexus or a future LFA. It didn't look like the future of anything. To be honest, it looked like the past. It looked like a 2015 Toyota. Fans were once again really upset. So Lexus brainstormed and went back to the drawing board. They came up with this instead and passed off the concept to Toyota. Toyota completely redesigned the overall concept and created the Toyota GT3, signaling Toyota's return to GT racing. And it was a huge success for Toyota in terms of a concept, and it will be coming out in 2026 officially. Unfortunately for Lexus fans, this still means that we have no future for the LFA. All the dreams and ideas that were introduced in performance for the Lexus brand with the LFA continue to change and die. The promises aren't fulfilled. So that brings me back to my original question. Why Lexus? Lexus has untapped potential, but not in just shortcomings. Shortcomings mean opportunity. There's a chance here to fulfill the LFA dream for fans, prioritize engagement and passion, lean into design innovation for new buyers, create a new frontier for electric leader identity, create exclusivity, not just a luxury Toyota package, and finally, reawaken the F division for performance. Bring back excitement in this brand. That brings me to my project brief. My goal is to design a next-generation Lexus Halo or hypercar that builds on the legacy of the LFA and enhances Lexus' brand image, while also pushing the boundaries of styling, performance, and innovation brand language. This project would be two-faced, with both research and physical assets. In research, I would have to study Lexus' needs and goals, study a marketing segment, and finally decide on a design direction and a thesis. These things would help me visualize and drive the physical assets, which would include a fully developed exterior body concept, which will be shown in the form of a 1/5 scale clay model, an exterior component package including lights and wheels, and finally some sketch renders to show off the overall design concept. So a little bit more about the design direction. What does a high-performance halo car, flagship car, truly fulfill for the brand? It fulfills a brand aspiration gap, a product lineup gap, and a market presence gap. It does this by using Japanese craftsmanship, tying back to Lexus's Japanese roots, using luxury and exotic materials. But they can also go in a futuristic direction, change the outcome of their future, with new propulsion technologies, hybrid or EV technologies, and active aero. By doing this, they can surpass Western car technology. They can also create a cultural icon by leveraging the JDM experience and not just focusing on power stats. Finally, they can create a new hypercar segment by blending performance with philosophy. But as we know, form follows function. So to understand what the body of this car looks like, we have to understand what the goal of it is. What is it supposed to do? How can it compete with other hypercars? We have to set benchmarks. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds, a top speed over 200 miles an hour. The powertrain needs to be extreme internal combustion like a V10 or V12 engine, or have hybrid electric or fully electric engines with over 1,000 horsepower. The technology has to include advanced materials like carbon fiber, monocoques, active aerodynamics, and AI assist. It needs to be exclusive, ultra-limited production, usually under 1,000 units, a price point of over $1 million in most cases. But the most important part is the awe-inspiring sound, design, and brand story of this vehicle. That brings me to my package selection. What is the body of this car going to be? What are the hard points? I have to set constraints so that I can actually build a design around this vehicle. So I decided on a mid-engine hybrid V10, which is a completely different direction for Lexus. But why? Things like the wheelbase, length, width, height, and track are very similar in size to the original Lexus LFA. This package, however, keeps a low mid-engine profile and a strong positioning for aggressive handling, as compared to the oversteering but powerful front-engine LFA. This adds a mid-engine sleek design language option for Lexus's future and puts them on par to compete with modern hypercars. Before we move on to the actual design, I want to set a vision for this car. The name is one of the most important things for any product that comes out. Whether it's a car or an appliance, the name represents the feeling or the goal. The Lexus LFA stood for Lexus Future Apex. And if you recall from before, I described the Lexus Future Apex, the LFA, as a predator breathing down my neck on the highway. It was terrifying and exciting. It was the pinnacle of design. Apex stands for the top or highest part of something, especially when forming a point. Or it can be a verb, meaning to reach a high point or a climax, especially geographically. The LFR, the concepts that were pitched by Lexus that continued to fail, we don't really know what the R means in that acronym. So I decided to abandon that name and move into a new direction that could help me conceptualize a new idea without the bitter taste in our mouth of the LFR. So I chose the LFZ, Lexus Future Zenith. Zenith is a noun that means the time at which something is most successful, the point in the sky or celestial sphere directly above the observer. Zenith takes the concept of the Lexus Future Apex, the highest point of something, the pinnacle, the climax, and moves it one step further. It helps us envision a thesis for this vehicle. But once more, before I get into the thesis, I'd like to talk about the two things that really define the LFA to me. I wanted to deep dive and study the things that represent the LFA. The feelings that I felt when it blew by me on the highway the first time. The excitement. The first instinct that represents the LFA to me is motion. Humans love motion. But what is it about motion and pace and change that we find so interesting and aesthetic? Well, first off, motion reflects life. The swaying trees and flying birds catch our eye. They're interesting to us. They are a representation of life. Dynamic forms translate motion. A curved line is dynamic, it creates drama. Kinetic potential draws intrigue. Just like a coiled spring or a button on an elevator, we are simply too curious not to play with the idea of that kinetic potential being released. Motion creates a instinctive response. So when something moves at you or away from you, we instinctively move away from or chase that thing. We can't help it. Finally, motion creates cinematic allure and entertainment. Motion is simply too entertaining to look away from. The second instinct is fear. Why do humans seek danger? The human mind is wired to fear things as a defense mechanism. So why is it that we so often chase thrill and risk? So many people have seen the 007 movies or the Mission Impossible movies. They put us on the end of our seat. That's why we seek danger. Fear mirrors fascination. The things that we don't understand and scare us create new ideas in our head. We have to problem solve. We have to create a new world or try to understand it. Risk also builds emotional intensity and drama. Fear sharpens our perception, just as iron sharpens iron. Controlled chaos means power, and humans want to control power. They want to have power. And finally, there's a cultural ritual of competition. Whether it's through sports or entertainment or stories of heroes in war, humans are always looking for the next step up, the next competitive edge to move forward. As humans, we're captivated by motion. Not just the act of moving, but the beauty of potential energy, of tension, of something about to launch. We're also drawn to fear, but not to be consumed by it, to master it. These twin instincts, motion and fear, shape how we see beauty, and they shaped the Lexus LFA. Now I'd like to talk about my thesis, the vision of this car. Harnessed chaos, violence, and beauty. In the midst of an electric era, I'd like you to come along with me and reimagine a next-generation race machine inspired by the gravity, tension, and violence of unknown celestial motion, designed to channel raw, explosive energy into a form that is both aggressive and meticulously controlled. The result is more than just a machine, but rather a precision instrument, a visual and visceral experience of flow state where control emerges not from restraint through fear, but rather from mastery over extreme force. Visualizing this thesis into a mood board helped me understand where my direction was going for this car. And you might be thinking to yourself, this mood board is crazy. It doesn't look anything like a typical product design mood board. I have no idea what's going on. I completely understand. Automotive mood boards are very interesting. They're not just based off of color, material, or finish, but rather they represent an idea, a concept, a fantasy world that this car exists in to unleash creativity and drive the idea forward. The car is an experience. It's a setting. It's a person driving it. It's a feeling, more than just a concept of materials and textures. I wanted this car to have Japanese roots, tiebacks to the future, a dystopian concept, but also a brighter, cleaner, and faster future. Lexus's future, envisioning the icon of luxury and speed. Before getting into ideation, I wanted to study aerodynamics as well. I found a unique parallel between the feminine curve and aerodynamics with functionality. Most cars have this weird blend between aesthetics and actual purposeful function that drives speed. The selected dynamic concept best mirrors a blend of Lexus's design with aerodynamic performance. Then I moved into ideation. As you can see, this ideation was in 3 phases. This is the first page of 3 phases of ideation. In the first phase, in the top left, I started to sketch out Lexus's general forms, their front fascia, their side profiles. And in phase 2, my advisor Boris suggested that I go with extreme packages. Try to come up with concepts that really drive speed, motion, and tension. The things that are existing in my thesis. By abandoning the package and moving to these ideas, I finally landed on a third concept. As you can see, the tense angles and sharp lines feel fast, but also represent some of what's happening in Lexus's design language. All three of these phases help me move on into my next phase of ideation, considering the package. This also had three phases. The first phase was just sketching out the general package shape. What is the body of the car going to look like, not the details? Phase 2 moved into adding some more of those tense elements. Things like the intake over the top of the door and underneath, the front fascia where the lights are, the grille. These concepts help push me into my final concept in Phase 3. Where you can see, once more, the concept is very tense and has a lot of the same design language as is shown in the previous pages, very tense, aggressive shapes. I took this final design direction and moved it into my orthographics. This is basically my 1/5 scale model blueprint for my clay. This orthographic package was created to project dimensions and visual profiles from the selected design onto the clay model, allowing for generally accurate proportions to help discover the correct body shape before interpreting individual surface profiles in the clay. But before I could get into clay, I had to build a buck. I had to start the model. I had to cut foam to a slightly inset shape from the parameters of the orthographics to act as a draft and a structure for the clay surfaces to be packed onto. So then I started to pack the clay onto that buck. I pressed it into the surface of the foam and well beyond the parameters of the orthographics, which allowed me later to start cutting away. I had to start rough blocking. Once clay was packed beyond the perimeters, I had to cut back into the clay to roughly form the base shapes. At this point, some of my peers added Lightning McQueen's eyes because they realized that the body shape started to look like Lightning McQueen. But that was a good sign. That meant that it was starting to feel like a car. The shape was coming along. Then I moved into actual measuring and shaping. I took plotted points from my orthographics and dimensioned them. I plotted them onto the surface and carved away, which starts to unearth the actual shapes of the design. Then I moved into detail carving, creating technical edges and smaller forms to define the overall shapes and mirror the selected design shape in all of its little details. Then I got into surface smoothing. Something that's interesting about clay is while it's easy to work with and add on and carve away quickly, the edges are rough and bumpy. I had to purge the surface contours of scars and deformities and make edges that are clarified using steels, rakes, and tapes. I had to make the surfaces as perfect as possible. And then finally, I added in final touches. Printed components and last touches were meticulously detailed and pressed into the clay, allowing the surfaces to sit complete. Then as I started to do component research and component design, I had to start out with studying the original 2005 Lexus LFA wheel. What was the purpose? This wheel was a 20-inch diameter 5-lug, made out of forged aluminum alloy, lightweight, made for speed, and durable for performance. The LFZ concept wheel is a 21-inch diameter center lock, made out of forged magnesium alloy as used in F1 cars, 25% lighter than the aluminum previous wheel, and stronger for more aggressive drafting styles. Which takes me to my design. I wanted to use a traditional 10-spoke Lexus style, but point it to 5 points, and add an aerodynamic and racing twist, with deeper drafting sets and more aggressive angles to make it look sportier. And of course, add race performance tires, because it is a performance vehicle. As you can see, this wheel wasn't just the rims or the wheels. I also added an aero disc, as you can see below. The aero disc concept reduces drag, conserves energy, and increases speed stability. And most importantly, focuses brake cooling on this car. Hybrid vehicles and performance vehicles, as you can see on Audis and Porsches, oftentimes use aero discs, even if they're not aesthetic, to help the performance of the car. Finally, I made some sketch renders with the help of Viscom AI to visualize what could this car look like when fully realized in comparison to its predecessor. As you can see, the aero discs, lights, and other components are all added on. I also want to point out the lights. As they stay true to the original Lexus LFA's shape and front fascia, they're modernized and electrified to match the signature El Finesse headlight iconography of the modern Lexus brand. The most iconic part of the LFA is the rear fascia. Matching this design language was super important. But I also wanted to redesign some things, like the exhaust. Centralizing the triple exhaust and moving it higher up on the vehicle creates attention. Everybody loves the fire coming out of an exhaust when a car downshifts. Bring that higher up catches people's attention and gets them to look at the car. It's exciting. And of course, the rear lights were also modernized to match the current brand language of Lexus. The most drastic and controversial part of this vehicle was the side profile and body shape. As you can see, the original LFA has a longer hood and a more set-back greenhouse. The new vehicle, the LFZ, has a more pushed forward greenhouse because of its mid-engine profile. Unlike brands like Corvette, who have a brand language of a front engine for years and years and years in a tradition, when Corvette changed its profile to a mid-engine recently, a lot of fans were truly upset. It didn't allow for the brand to move forward. They were stuck in the idea of having a front-engine car. While this may be controversial for the LFA to the LFZ, and people want a front engine, the LFA was a one of one. There was no design transition, or tradition, or history to keep the engine in the front. The whole concept was purely around performance. The design language still translates, as you can see in the wheels and side panels with 2 active aerodynamic intakes. I'd like to give a special thanks to Jim Stevenson and Tom Balliet for providing the learning space and materials for this project. To my advisor Boris, for being my automotive project advisor and specifically helping me with critique and building this project further. Gabe Pyle for being my academic project advisor. Brian Shane for being a supplemental project advisor and helping me so much with the clay model. All of my ICC professors for their constant support. The Toy Barn and Jermaine Lexus for giving me an opportunity to research their models and market. Michael Cow for early project research aid. Chris Law for pre-project advice. And Frank Stevenson for pre-project advice as well. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. I hope that I was able to inspire you with this project as much as the LFA had originally inspired me. Thank you.